I'd sat on the cold concrete floor of the storage unit and cried like someone had just told me the news all over again. That's when the idea took hold. I'll just drop it off. That was the excuse. 5 minutes. No conversation. No memories. Just closure. That was the lie. A car pulled into the driveway across from me, snapping me out of my thoughts. A man stepped out, arms full of wrapped gifts, calling out cheerfully to someone inside. Laughter floated through the cold air. Families. Togetherness. Normalcy. I turned off my engine. The silence was deafening. Snow crunched under my boots as I crossed the street. Every step felt heavier than the last, like my body knew something my mind was still pretending not to. I stood on the porch, close enough to see the faint smudge on the doorframe where Mark had once dropped a toolbox and chipped the paint. Close enough to smell cinnamon and pine drifting from inside. Close enough to hear voices. A woman's voice. And a child's laughter. My heart slammed against my ribs. Of course, I thought. What did you expect? He'd moved on. He was supposed to have moved on. It had been 3 years. Still, nothing prepares you for the sound of another life built where yours used to be. I raised my hand to knock. It hovered there, trembling. Then the door opened. Mark froze when he saw me. Shock washed over his face, quickly replaced by something harder to name. Panic, maybe. Or guilt. "Emily," he said. Hearing my name in his voice again felt like stepping into freezing water. I swallowed. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have come." Behind him, warmth spilled into the night. Christmas lights glowed softly. A tree stood in the corner, tall and full, decorated in careful colors. "You okay?" he asked. "Yes," I lied. "I was just dropping something off." His eyes flicked past me to the car. "You're alone," he said, more statement than question. "Yes." The door I never planned to knock on. I didn't plan to go there. That was the lie I told myself the entire drive. Snow dusted the highway in thin, uneven streaks, the kind that made headlights blur and memories feel louder than the radio. Christmas Eve traffic was light. Most people were already home, already settled, already wrapped in warmth and certainty. I had neither. My fingers clenched the steering wheel as the GPS announced the final turn. Even though I knew the way by heart, I'd driven it hundreds of times before. Used to joke I could make it blindfolded. The house came into view slowly, like a photograph developing. White siding. 2 stories. Soft yellow light glowing from the windows. My ex-husband's house. Except it wasn't mine anymore. I pulled over across the street, engine still running, breath fogging the windshield. A wreath hung on the front door. Pine red ribbon, tiny silver bells that caught the light when the wind moved them. The exact kind I used to make. My stomach twisted. I checked the clock. 7:18 p.m. Christmas Eve. I shouldn't be here. I knew that. But knowing something and obeying it are 2 very different things. 3 hours earlier, I'd been sitting alone in my apartment, eating leftover Chinese food from a cardboard box, watching a Hallmark movie I wasn't really watching. The kind where everything breaks and magically fixes itself by the final kiss. I laughed out loud at the irony. Then my phone buzzed. A reminder. Storage unit number 314, final pickup notice. I stared at the screen longer than necessary. That unit held the things I couldn't throw away. The things I couldn't look at either. And when I'd gone earlier that afternoon to finally clear it out, I found one last box pushed into the corner. Inside it, wrapped in old newspaper, was a wooden Christmas ornament. Hand-carved. A little crooked. Painted white with our last name etched into it. The first ornament we ever bought together. A pause stretched between us, thick with everything we hadn't said in 3 years. Then a small voice chimed in from inside. "Daddy, who is it?" The word daddy hit me like a punch to the chest. Mark hesitated. Then he opened the door wider. "Come in," he said quietly. "It's freezing." I should have said no. I should have turned around and walked away. Instead, I stepped inside. The house smelled like Christmas. Pine. Sugar cookies. something warm simmering on the stove. It didn't look like my home anymore. And yet, in the way that hurts the most, it still felt familiar. Different couch. New rug. Photos I didn't recognize. But the fireplace crackled the same way. The old record player still sat in the corner. My chest tightened. A woman stood near the tree, adjusting an ornament. She turned when she heard us. She was beautiful. Not intimidating. Not glamorous. Comfortable. Like she belonged. "Hi," she said, smiling politely. "I'm Sarah." "Emily," I replied. "Merry Christmas." Her smile faltered just slightly, just enough for me to notice. A little boy peeked out from behind the couch, curly-haired and wide-eyed. "This is Noah," Mark said. "Noah." I crouched down. "Hi." He waved once, then disappeared again. "I won't stay long," I said quickly. "I just came to return something." I pulled the ornament from my bag. Mark's breath caught. "I've been looking for this," he said softly. "I found it today," I replied. "Thought you'd want it." He nodded, turning it over carefully. Sarah watched us both. Something unsaid settled in the room. Then I noticed the mantle, and my breath stopped. A framed photo sat between two stockings. It was old. It was us. Our first Christmas together. I stared. Sarah followed my gaze. "Oh," she said gently. "We were actually talking about that earlier." Mark shifted uncomfortably. "She wanted to take it down," he said. "I just hadn't yet." I forced a smile. "You don't have to explain," I said. "I'm the one who showed up uninvited." And standing there between a past I hadn't let go of and a future that wasn't mine, I realized. I had no idea what I just stepped into. The secret Sarah didn't know. Sarah excused herself to the kitchen with a smile that felt practiced. "I should check on the cider," she said, already turning away. But the way her shoulders stiffened told me everything. She needed space. I stood there awkwardly, coat still on, fingers numb. Not from the cold, but from the realization that I was standing in the middle of a life that had moved on without me. Mark placed the wooden ornament gently on the mantel, beside the photo he hadn't taken down. "You didn't have to bring this," he said. "I know," I replied, "but I couldn't throw it away." He nodded slowly, like that answer made sense in a way he didn't want to admit. The record player crackled softly, then filled the room with an old Christmas song. One we used to play every year while decorating the tree. I hadn't noticed him turn it on. "You still remember how to work that thing," I said. A faint smile tugged at his mouth. "Some habits stick. So do some regrets." Noah's laughter floated in from the kitchen as Sarah spoke to him, her voice warm and steady. She sounded like someone who knew where everything was in the drawers. Someone who didn't hesitate. Someone at home. Mark gestured toward the hallway. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. I hesitated, then nodded. The hallway felt narrower than I remembered. The walls were painted a new color, but the floorboard near the bathroom still creaked. I stepped around it automatically. He noticed. "You remember," he said. "I remember everything," I replied. We stopped near the guest room, the room that used to be our office. The door was closed now. He leaned against the wall, rubbing his hands together as if trying to warm them. "Emily," he said slowly, "there's something you should know." I laughed under my breath. That sentence never ends well. He exhaled. "Sarah doesn't know everything." My heart skipped. "About what?" "About why we divorced." The words landed harder than I expected. "What did you tell her?" I asked. He hesitated. "That we grew apart. That it was mutual." "And it wasn't." "No," he said quietly. "It wasn't." A familiar ache bloomed in my chest, the same one that used to wake me up at night during those last months. "She thinks you left me," he continued. "That you wanted a different life." I stared at him. "You let her believe that?" I didn't correct her. The kitchen grew quiet. Noah's laughter faded. "Why?" I whispered. He swallowed. Because the truth makes me look like the bad guy. I shook my head slowly. You were the bad guy, Mark. I know, he said quickly. That's why I couldn't say it out loud. I laughed, but it came out brittle. So you let me be the villain instead. I didn't think it would matter, he said. I thought we were done. We were, I snapped. But that doesn't mean it didn't hurt. He looked at me, then really looked at me, and for a moment the years fell away. I'm sorry, he said. I should have told her. I should have told you. You already did, I said. 3 years ago. When you walked out. Sarah appeared at the end of the hallway, holding 2 mugs. She froze when she saw our faces. What's going on? She asked gently. Mark opened his mouth, then closed it. I felt something shift inside me. A familiar instinct rose up, the one that had guided me for most of my marriage. Protect him. Keep the peace. Don't make it harder. But I wasn't married to him anymore. And Sarah deserved better than half-truths wrapped in Christmas lights. I was just leaving, I said. Sarah studied me, then Mark. You don't look like you're just leaving, she said. I hesitated. Then I took a breath. Sarah, I said carefully, can I ask you something? She nodded. Did Mark ever tell you why our marriage actually ended? Her brow furrowed. He said you realized you wanted something different. That it wasn't anyone's fault. I felt the old pain twist, but this time it didn't crush me. That's not what happened, I said. Mark's face went pale. Sarah looked between us. Then what did happen? The house felt too quiet. Even the record player seemed to hush. I glanced at Mark. This was his moment. He said nothing. That told me everything. I took a slow breath. We didn't grow apart, I said. We were trying to move forward. Together. Sarah's grip tightened on her mug. We were talking about starting a family, I continued. And instead of telling me he was scared, Mark decided for both of us that I'd be better off without him. Mark closed his eyes. He left, I said simply. Without a conversation. Without a fight. Just a note. Sarah's face drained of color. That's not, Mark started. It is, I said. And I spent years thinking I was too much. That I asked for too much. Sarah looked at him, hurt flickering across her face. You told me it was mutual, she said. I was ashamed, he replied weakly. She shook her head slowly. You let me believe she walked away. I saw it then, the crack in the foundation. Not explosive. Not dramatic. Just real. Noah's small footsteps echoed down the hall. Daddy? He asked softly. Sarah crouched quickly. Hey buddy, can you go finish your puzzle in the living room? He nodded and padded away. Sarah stood up straighter. Emily, she said, voice steady but tight. Thank you for telling me. Mark looked panicked. Sarah. She raised a hand. I need a minute. She grabbed her coat from the hook. I'm going for a walk, she said. I need air. I'll come with you, Mark said. No, she replied. I need to walk alone. The door closed behind her. The silence that followed felt heavier than any argument we'd ever had. Mark sank onto the bench by the door. You didn't have to do that, he said quietly. Yes, I replied. I did. He looked up at me, eyes wet. You could have let it go. I let it go for 3 years, I said. That was enough. We sat there without speaking. Outside, snow began to fall again, slow and steady. I didn't know she'd take it this hard, he said. I laughed softly. She just realized the man she trusts hides when things get difficult. Of course she took it hard. He rubbed his face. I ruin everything. No, I said. You avoid things until they ruin themselves. He looked at me, startled. You always saw me, he whispered. And you never wanted to be seen, I replied. We sat with that truth between us. After a while I stood up. I really am going now, I said. He nodded. I'm glad you came. I paused at the door. So am I said. But not for the reason I thought. As I stepped back into the cold, I felt something unexpected. Relief. For the first time since the divorce, the story had changed, and I wasn't carrying it alone anymore. Why he never told me the truth about our divorce. I didn't leave right away. I told myself it was because the snow was coming down harder, because driving at night felt risky, but the truth was simpler and harder to admit. I wasn't done hearing the truth. Mark stood by the window, watching the snow fall like it might give him instructions on what to do next. His shoulders were slumped in a way I remembered too well, the posture he took when he felt cornered by life. "I never wanted it to happen like this," he said quietly. I took off my coat and draped it over the chair. "Then why did it?" I asked. He turned to face me, eyes rimmed red. "Because I didn't know how to be honest without destroying everything." I crossed my arms. "You destroyed it anyway." He nodded. "I know." The house felt different now. The warmth was still there, but it felt exposed, like someone had opened a window and let the cold truth rush in. "I should have told you years ago," he said, "but I didn't think you'd want to hear it." "Try me," I replied. He sat across from me at the dining table, the same table we'd once argued over paint samples and bills, and whether we could afford new chairs. Sarah's mug still sat there, forgotten. "I was failing," he began. I frowned. "At what?" "At everything," he said. "My job. Our plans. Being the man you married." "That's not an answer," I said. He rubbed his hands together, a nervous habit he'd always had. "When you started talking about a baby," he continued, I panicked. My chest tightened. "You never said that," I said. "I know," he replied. I smiled. I nodded. "I said we'd talk about it after the holidays." I remembered that phrase. After the holidays. After the promotion. After things settled down. They never did. "I was already drowning," he said. "The debt, the pressure, the constant feeling that I was one mistake away from losing everything. And then I imagined bringing a child into that mess." "You could have talked to me," I said softly. "I was afraid," he admitted. "Afraid you'd see me the way I saw myself." "And how was that?" I asked. "A disappointment." The word hung between us. "I grew up watching my dad fail," he continued. "Promises he couldn't keep. Jobs he couldn't hold. I swore I'd be different." I stayed silent, letting him talk. "When you looked at me," he said, "you saw potential, stability, a future. And I felt like a fraud. I felt tears sting my eyes. So instead of letting me decide whether I could live with your fear, I said, you decided for me." "Yes," he whispered. "Do you have any idea what that did to me?" I asked. He shook his head slowly. "I know it hurt you. I didn't realize how much. I spent years replaying every conversation," I said, "wondering what I said wrong, what I missed. I thought I pushed you away by wanting too much." He covered his face. "You didn't," he said. "You wanted a life. I just didn't think I deserved it." The clock on the wall ticked loudly, marking time neither of us could get back. "So why not tell me later?" I asked. "After the divorce. After things cooled down." He lowered his hands. "Because by then," he said, "you were already rebuilding. And if I told you the truth, I'd have to face the fact that I didn't just lose you. I gave you up." I let that sink in. "That wasn't noble," I said. "That was cowardly." "I know," he said. "But it felt easier to let you hate me than to watch you forgive me." The honesty of that answer took my breath away. Outside, a car passed slowly, headlights cutting through the snow. "And Sarah?" I asked. "Why not tell her?" He laughed bitterly. "Because I didn't want to be that man again. The one who runs when things get hard." I nodded. "But that's still who you are." He looked down. "I'm trying to change," he said. "Trying isn't the same as doing," I replied. We heard the front door open. Sarah stepped inside, cheeks flushed from the cold, snow clinging to her coat. She stopped when she saw us sitting there. "You're still here," she said, surprised. "I was just leaving," I replied, standing. She studied my face, then Mark's. "Did you tell her?" she asked him. He nodded slowly. "All of it," he said. She took a deep breath and set her coat down. "I needed to hear it from you," she said, looking at me. "But I also needed to hear it from him." She turned to Mark. "And I needed to know whether you were capable of saying it out loud." He swallowed. "I am." She tilted her head. "Now?" "Yes." "Or only because she showed up?" she asked. That question cut deeper than anything I'd said. Mark didn't answer right away. "I don't know," he admitted. Sarah closed her eyes briefly. "That's the problem," she said. Noah's footsteps echoed again as he wandered into the room, holding the wooden ornament. "Mom?" he asked, confused. Sarah knelt beside him. "Hey, sweetheart. Remember how we talked about telling the truth?" He nodded solemnly. "This is one of those moments," she said. He hugged the ornament tighter. I felt a lump rise in my throat. Sarah stood and looked at me. "I'm glad you came tonight," she said. "Even if it hurts." "So am I," I replied honestly. She smiled faintly. "I think this house needed honesty more than another perfect Christmas." I grabbed my coat. At the door, Mark stopped me. "I never stopped loving you," he said quietly. I looked at him, really looked at him. "That's not the same as choosing someone," I said. He nodded, tears spilling freely now. "I hope you're happy," he whispered. "I will be," I said. "Because now I finally know the truth." As I stepped back into the night, snow swirling around me, something inside me shifted. The pain was still there, but it no longer owned me. For the first time since our divorce, I understood something clearly. He didn't leave because I wasn't enough. He left because he didn't believe he was. And that truth, finally spoken, set me free. The choice I didn't expect to make on Christmas morning. I didn't sleep much that night. I lay in my apartment listening to the hum of the heater and the distant sound of someone's TV through the wall, my mind replaying everything that had been said. Every pause, every look, every truth that had waited years to be spoken. Snow continued to fall outside, blanketing the city in white, softening sharp edges that didn't feel softened at all. Christmas morning arrived quietly. No alarms, no rushing, no expectations. I made coffee and stood by the window, watching a man across the street help his kids build a lopsided snowman. They laughed when the head fell off. He laughed too. I didn't feel jealous. I felt clear. For the first time in years, the story I'd told myself about my divorce no longer fit. I wasn't the woman who had been left because she wanted too much. I wasn't the failure. I wasn't unlovable. I had been brave, and he had been afraid. That truth didn't erase the pain, but it changed its shape. My phone buzzed just after 9. "Mark, I know it's Christmas. I'm sorry to bother you, but would you be willing to come by later? Just for a bit." I stared at the message for a long time. 3 years ago, I would have gone immediately, dropped everything, taken responsibility for his feelings. Now I felt something different. Choice. I typed back slowly. "Me, I can stop by for a short time. That's all." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. "Mark, thank you." The house looked different in daylight. Brighter, quieter, less like a memory and more like a place where real people lived and made mistakes and tried again. Sarah opened the door. She looked tired but composed. "Merry Christmas," she said. "Merry Christmas," I replied. She stepped aside to let me in. No tension, no forced smiles, just honesty standing awkwardly in the doorway. Noah sat on the floor by the tree lining up toy cars. He looked up and grinned. "You came back," he said. "I did," I replied. "Just for a bit." Mark stood near the fireplace, hands clasped, like he didn't quite know where to put himself. Sarah gestured toward the couch. "Sit," she said. "We should talk." And just like that, the room rearranged itself, not physically but emotionally. No longer past versus present. Just three adults trying to do the right thing. "I want to start by saying something," Sarah said, her voice steady. "I'm not angry at you." I blinked. "You don't owe me anything." "I know," she said. "But I need you to understand this isn't about choosing sides." Mark looked down. "This is about patterns," Sarah continued, "and whether we're brave enough to break them." She turned to him. "You don't get to hide behind silence anymore." He nodded. "I know." She looked at me. "And you don't get to carry guilt that isn't yours." Something in my chest cracked open. I didn't know how heavy it was, I admitted. Until it wasn't. Sarah smiled faintly. "That's usually how it goes." Noah wandered over, holding the wooden ornament. "Dad says this one is special," he said. "It is," I replied, kneeling to his level. "It holds a lot of history." "Is history bad?" he asked. I smiled softly. "No. History just teaches us." He considered that, then nodded seriously and returned to his cars. Sarah watched him go. "That's why this matters," she said. "What we model." Mark finally spoke. "I don't want to lose you," he said to her. "And I don't want to keep running." She met his eyes. "Then don't," she said simply. Silence settled, not heavy but thoughtful. After a while Sarah stood. "I'm going to take Noah to my sister's for a few hours," she said. "You two should talk." Mark looked surprised. "Are you sure?" "Yes," she said. "Some conversations need space." She turned to me. "You don't owe him anything," she said gently. "But I think you owe yourself closure." I nodded. When the door closed behind them, the house felt hollow. Mark sat across from me. "I don't expect forgiveness," he said. "I just needed you to know the truth." "I do know it now," I said. "That was the gift." He flinched. "Gift?" "Yes," I said. "Because it gave me something back." "What?" "Myself." Tears filled his eyes. "I always thought if I told you it would hurt you more," he said. "It did hurt," I replied. "But not knowing hurt worse." He nodded slowly. "I see that now." We sat in silence for a moment. Then he said the thing I hadn't expected. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I'd stayed?" I thought about it carefully. "Yes," I said honestly. "But wondering isn't the same as wishing." He smiled sadly. "You've changed." "So have you," I replied. "That's not a bad thing." When Sarah and Noah returned, the energy had shifted again. Lighter. Calmer. Sarah caught my eye and raised an eyebrow, silently asking. I nodded. She smiled. "I'm glad," she said. I stood and grabbed my coat. "I should go," I said. Noah ran over and handed me the ornament. "Can you keep it?" he asked. "Dad says it belongs to you too." I looked at Mark. He nodded. I knelt and took it carefully. "Thank you," I said. "I'll take good care of it." As I stepped outside, the sun reflected off the snow, bright and blinding. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was leaving something behind. I felt like I was walking forward. And I realized the choice I hadn't expected to make on Christmas morning wasn't about forgiveness. It was about freedom. How an unexpected visitor changed all our lives. I didn't expect Christmas to linger. But it did. Not in the way it used to, with decorations and plans and traditions, but in the way certain moments do, the ones that settle into you, slowly reshaping things you didn't know could still move. The wooden ornament sat on my kitchen table when I got home, catching the afternoon light. I turned it over in my hands, tracing the carved lines, the small imperfections that once made us laugh. For years, I'd thought that ornament represented something broken. Now I saw it differently. It represented something unfinished, not in a way that demanded fixing, but in a way that asked to be understood. I made myself lunch and ate in silence, the city outside my window unusually calm. Somewhere down the block someone played music. A dog barked. Life continued. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like I was behind it. The days after Christmas were quiet. No dramatic messages. No late-night confessions. Just small human check-ins. Sarah texted once. "Sarah, thank you again. I meant what I said." I replied simply, "Me, I know." Mark didn't text at all. And that, strangely enough, felt like respect. I returned to work the following week. Coworkers asked the usual questions. "How was your holiday? Did you travel? Do anything special?" I smiled and answered honestly. It was clarifying. They nodded politely, not understanding, but that was okay. Some things aren't meant to be summarized. In January, I packed up the last box from the storage unit. This time, there was no hesitation. I kept a few things, a photo, a letter, the ornament, but the rest I donated or threw away. Not out of bitterness, but out of certainty. I no longer needed physical proof of a life I had lived. I carried it inside me now, cleaner, lighter, and finally at peace. One afternoon, while walking home from work, I ran into my neighbor, Mrs. Kaplan, who always smelled faintly of lavender and liked to talk too much. "You look different," she said, squinting at me. "Do I?" I asked. "Yes," she nodded, like someone who finally stopped apologizing. I laughed. She wasn't wrong. In early February, Sarah called. She asked first if it was okay. I appreciated that. We met at a coffee shop halfway between our neighborhoods, neutral ground, warm lighting, quiet music. She arrived first. When I walked in, she stood and smiled. "No awkwardness," she said. "I promise." "Good," I replied. I left mine at home. We ordered drinks and sat by the window. "I wanted you to know," she said after a moment. "Mark and I are in therapy." I nodded. "That sounds necessary." She smiled ruefully. "Yes. And hard. I imagine." She wrapped her hands around her mug. "I don't blame you," she said, "for any of it." "I know," I replied, "but I need to say it out loud anyway." I nodded again. "We're trying," she continued. "Not pretending. Actually trying. That matters," I said. "Whether it works or not." She studied me. "You really are okay, aren't you?" I thought about it. "Yes," I said. "I am." She exhaled like she'd been holding her breath. "I'm glad," she said. "For you. And for us." Before we left, she slid something across the table. A photo. It was of the ornament hanging on their tree. "We made a copy," she said, "so everyone gets to keep their history." My throat tightened. "Thank you," I said. Spring came quietly. I joined a weekend hiking group, took a pottery class, started saying yes to invitations instead of making excuses. One evening, while cleaning my apartment, I found an old notebook. Inside were lists I'd made during my marriage. Goals, plans, things I wanted someday. Some of them still mattered. Some didn't. I crossed out the ones that no longer fit and rewrote the rest, not as compromises but as choices. That night I hung the ornament by my window, not as decoration, as a reminder. I saw Mark one last time in late April, by accident. We passed each other at a grocery store, both reaching for the same carton of eggs. We laughed softly, naturally. "How are you?" he asked. "Good," I said. "Really good." He nodded. "You look it." "So do you," I replied, and meant it. We stood there for a moment, not awkward, not heavy. Just two people who had once loved each other and learned something from it. "I'm glad you came that night," he said quietly. "So am I replied. Then we went our separate ways. And it didn't hurt. Months later, when Christmas rolled around again, I did something different. I hosted. Friends, neighbors, coworkers. People from different parts of my life who didn't know each other, but wanted to be there. The apartment filled with noise and warmth and overlapping conversations. At some point, someone noticed the ornament by the window. "Is that old?" they asked. "Yes," I said. "Very. What's the story?" I smiled. It's about showing up, I said. Even when you're scared. Especially then. They nodded, satisfied. I didn't explain further. Some stories don't need details to be true. Late that night, after everyone left, I sat by the window and watched the snow fall. Just like the year before. Only this time, I wasn't standing outside someone else's house. I was home. I thought about how close I'd come to turning away that Christmas Eve. How easy it would have been to keep driving, to keep believing the wrong story. Instead, I knocked. And in doing so, I didn't change the past. I changed the meaning of it. I stopped being the woman who wondered what she'd done wrong. I became the woman who understood what she deserved. And that unexpected visit, awkward, painful, honest, didn't just change one night. Changed all our lives. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't staying. It's showing up, telling the truth, and walking forward without needing to look back.